So continuing our conversation about reclaiming our authentic selves. I don't know why I make that face. It's just awkward, right? Something to think about. And sometimes it feels weird. But let's say that you are working in a space where it truly does feel safe. You really do feel like, oh, I can actually be my authentic self here. I don't have those worries or concerns like that I'm going to be ostracized. That's not the issue, Anatolia. The issue is I just don't know how to do, like, it's just awkward and weird and uncomfortable. And what do I just walk up to people and say, hi, I like, No, those aren't the things that you do. I think if you're having trouble being your authentic self, there is something holding you back in that environment, whether or not they have a inclusive space or it feels welcoming, you like the people you work with. If you still feel like you're struggling to be your authentic self, then there's something there. Maybe you have to dive deeper into it. And I know that's probably not what you want to hear. It's not what most people want to hear, that, well, superficially things are fine, but clearly, if you dive a little deeper, things aren't where they should be. So if you find that the environment's good and you still can't bring yourself to be your full self in your workplace, that's something you have to look at. And maybe it's nothing at all to do with where you're working. Maybe it's your own upbringing, your own history, things that you've experienced in your past are keeping you from letting go right now. And if that's the case, you've got to work at that. You've got to actively think about those things, and in situations when they arise and you have the opportunity to actually say, hey, this is a little bit something about me. Put yourself out there. You have to be vulnerable. That was my 2022, 23, I don't remember. A couple years ago, I made that resolution to be more vulnerable. And it is hard. And I think that's part of why I make these videos, is to continue practicing that. It's not easy to tell everybody all your things, or even to show up, show your face in front of all of the people for their judgment. Ideally, it brings connection, but if you don't put yourself out there, if you don't try, then it's not going to work. You're not going to be able to be your authentic self ever in most environments if you're not willing to be a little bit vulnerable and to put yourself in an uncomfortable situation sometimes. So it's two-part. Second part is definitely figuring out what might be holding you back, and then how can you be a little more vulnerable. So if the issue holding you back is a you issue and not a them issue, meaning it's something inside of you that's holding you back, again, really evaluate. Is it really not them? Is there not something maybe subtle or unspoken that's making you feel like you have to hold back? That's number one. And number two, you're gonna have to do the deep work, kind of like the imposter syndrome. It took me a minute to remember that. But sometimes when we feel imposter syndrome, and if that's something you're dealing with on top of not being able to bring your authentic self, which is not uncommon, frankly, then there are things that you have to look at in your background that might be causing you to feel that way. I know for me, not having a degree, being surrounded by PhDs and other highly technical, experienced people did not help. Made me feel very insecure and not prepared to have conversations about who I am and what I know and what my expertise is. We are steadily losing daylight on this walk, but I will try to keep this part brief, because if the actual issue with you not being able to be your authentic self is more about vulnerability, that's also tough. None of this is easy, right? Well, that's not true, actually. It's all easy. It just all takes time, patience, and work. So I shouldn't say it's hard. I should say it just takes work and time and a commitment to doing it. Can I still be seen? If it's vulnerability, and I get it, I've had a hard time being vulnerable myself. I've often and I'm regularly told that I'm so strong, and I don't want to be. And I think for most people who are strong people, they've had to become strong people. They never chose to become strong people. And for me, in doing that, I think I lost some of my vulnerability. You kind of hide that, or it gets taken. And maybe that's another subject we'll dive into for reclamation, reclaiming our softer sides. But being vulnerable, it's a conscious decision. It's a decision that you make to open up and to share, and to know that even though you're doing that, you might not be accepted. You might get rejected, and you're willing to accept that. Worst thing that happens is someone's like, oh, okay, I don't really care. At least in the workplace, right? That's generally the worst that can happen, unless somebody is violating HR policies, and then that's a whole other issue, right? But for the most part, you make the decision to share, to be open, to be vulnerable, and you take on the consequences of that. The consequences might be that people feel uncomfortable and, okay, now I don't want to talk to her anymore. I know when I start talking about tarot cards, people get really quiet, but I think they're amazing. Anyway, I'm not going to dive into that. But you might also find there are people who connect with you, people who've been waiting to hear your voice, people who have the same experiences and felt like they could never share because they never heard anybody with similar experiences sharing anything like that, which is part of my goal, right? I don't want anybody to feel that way. So I'm going to share all of my stories, all of my experience with anyone who I feel may benefit from it, because my growth, my success, it's about all of us. It's about all the generations that come behind me. We're all in this together.